I'm in Warsaw, Poland.
Cool, man. Okay. Well, we'll get into all of the layers that led to Poland and this transformation in your life. And I'm coming from Kansas City, Missouri, in the middle of America. So,
Very nice.
yeah.
I
So
dig it.
nice to meet you. I want to begin our
You too.
conversation before we get into your life by asking you 4 years ago, we were all getting a handle on this pandemic. The world stopped and we were figuring it out. How did you survive the pandemic and how did it change you?
So in my case, it seems like the story, when you connect the dots going backwards, wrote itself perfectly. So at the time, I was actually already considering doing something that will have me location independent, something that will involve transmitting myself over the internet, and something that will allow me to deliver value to the world without necessarily having to be there physically. So nobody saw this thing coming, but it just so happened that I actually started, developing an online academy and an online activity around that time. And as soon as this happened, like there was a surge of online consumption, people consuming content online. And so looking back, I mean, I couldn't have planned it better, but that's exactly what happened. Like everybody was flocking online courses, just consuming online content. And so it just worked out for me so that I didn't have to leave my home studio in order to actually carry out work, deliver value, make a living, and help others to do the same.
So if I put you in front of a bunch of third graders right now, and it was career day, and one of them asked you, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
Well, my daughter actually had this exercise recently where she had to describe what their parents do for a living. And I asked her, okay, so what do you have down? And she said, well, for mom, she writes crime novels. And for me, what do you have? Sits on the couch and watches YouTube. I was like, really? Really? Is that my legacy according to you? So it's kind of funny. My kids always have a tough time describing what it is that I do, but my mission statement is on my business card. And even though the mediums have changed, my work is moving humans. So it used to be through music. It still is through music, but I let others now cook up the music in our studio. And I move human beings in different ways. So I do it through words, I do it through teaching, I do it through mentoring. But essentially, and I hope third grader, did you say a 3-year-old or a third grader?
Third grader.
A third grader will understand this. I'm trying to help people to unlock their unique calling, their unique superpower, the thing that they may be very good at and it may be very close to their heart, but it may be the thing that they are afraid of taking on the most because it's so close to their heart. So actually, if I was talking to an adult, I would ask them to tap into the wisdom of a third grader,
Yeah, absolutely.
paradoxically, because that's before we accumulate the things we think we should be doing, the things we see our neighbors doing, so on and so forth. Third graders, they kind of have that to a small extent, but they're still pretty unbiased and unburdened by the baggage they're about to accumulate when they go out into the world and start copying other people.
My one of my favorite quotes from the poet John Charles Bukowski is, "We're born geniuses and buried idiots." We spend,
Absolutely, man.
we spend all this time conforming and putting fences up and getting afraid. And if we were just virile and fearless like those young molding minds, man, we would have a different world.
Absolutely. There's another quote that's similar from this young man who died way before his time, Carlo Acutis. I don't know if you heard of this guy, but he
Mhm.
said, we're all born original, but most of us die as photocopies. Um, that's a sad truth, you know. There's a deeper philosophy around this. It's called the mimetic theory. We don't need to go into that, man, because it's pretty deep stuff. But essentially, what it says is that we don't really want what we want. We want what we think other people want.
Yeah.
Which is like it, once you start x-raying your own desires, you realize that most of them are actually like, where the heck did that come from?
Yeah.
Because now that I have it, or now that I'm trying to do this thing that I saw others chasing or doing, I don't really feel a deep fulfillment inside. So it's actually it's a real challenge for a lot of people, especially older folks who suddenly find themselves walking a path in life and they're like, I don't even know how I ended up here.
Yeah.
And trying to return to the path of your calling. That's a huge challenge, especially today.
Yeah.
Today when we are so plugged in to external stimuli and so little plugged into the inner transmission, man,
Yeah.
you're not going to find your calling from the outside,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like,
I dig
how
it.
could that be
Yeah.
possible?
Right. Yeah, I totally get it. So when you were in the third grade, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I don't think I really thought about it, when I was in the third grade. I don't remember having this kind of pressure to identify like a future thing. Of course, the world, like parents already started coming with lawyer, doctor, what engineer, whatever, the stable professions we all know and don't necessarily love, unless it is your calling, of course. But I don't remember having to declare myself, having that pressure or need to declare myself. Even recently, someone asked me, an older gentleman asked me, and this man was 93 years old, and he's like, well, what's your thing? What do you like, what do you call yourself? What do you define yourself as? And I say, I usually try not to define myself. So the best description I can give you of when I was in the third grade of what was happening is I was definitely involved in um, a lot of jest, a lot of disturbing the order, a lot of pranks, jokes, a lot of fascination with sound and anything that could help me to create sound or manufacture sound, like old Casio keyboards or things that were laying around the house, or even just listening to the records that my dad used to play and being amazed what kind of a profound thing they do to
Yep.
a human being. And so immediately as a kid, you're just like you're trying to replicate it. You're trying to control that sound to replicate that. Of course, very clumsily in the third grade. But those were the beginnings that when I look at my life now, I see those were the seeds. Those were the small beginnings that eventually, bloomed and blossomed into something more mature and beautiful and a continuation of that. Because I'm still jesting, I'm still pranking, I'm still, um, testing strangers with jokes that some love and welcome and some immediately like they just close up and right away I know like okay,
Yep.
I know who's on my frequency and who isn't.
Yeah. So you've had quite a ride, man. You've gone from being a banker to an award-winning music producer, a creative entrepreneur, and now as a mentor helping people find their dreams. How did this
Yeah.
evolutionary path take? Actually, where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Poland, where I'm broadcasting to you from right now. When I was 12, my mom took me to Toronto, Canada, where we would spend the next 22 years of our life. And then after 22 years, I ended up meeting my now wife. At the time, just the girl that I met on a European vacation that I left my entire life for and went to Europe. So my mom's like, I took all this time to bring you to North America, and what, you're going back. So then we spent 5 years in Amsterdam, and then we decided when we created a family that maybe it's best to go back to the place where we are both from to raise our kids in a place where which we are both familiar with. And so that's been the story. So I basically came back home, but I'm still very much active, in Canada. I'm still going back and forth. I consider myself a citizen of the world. Um, and I really appreciate each place and culture and the pluses and minuses of both, because I don't feel at home anywhere, to be honest. So I enjoy this side of the ocean for what it has to offer, and also North America for everything it has to offer.
So, who's been a hero and inspiration in your life?
Boy, I got a lot. I got a lot of heroes. And at the same time, I'm a man of faith. So my primary superhero is Jesus Christ. I'm not here to convert anybody. I'm not trying to turn bystanders into believers. But if you ask somebody who their hero is, I'd be remiss not to say who very much influences my life, my daily actions, my philosophy, and everything else. Apart from that, I got heroes in every area of life. So, I truly believe that if you want to transform, if you want to get better on a certain path, just look who was ahead on that path, and try to model as much as it makes sense what they have done. So in business, we got Peter Drucker. In music, oh man, where do I start? There are so many, so many. Um, always hard to like just name one.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, but in every area of life, I think I have people. And when I was younger, I really took celebrities, not necessarily like the cheap kind, like, even like bona fide, amazing folks, whether they're writers or artists. But as I got older, I realized that actually, you tend to get disappointed in like your heroes. You realize they're human, and you realize that you see them always with this perfection bias. But when you start reading their biographies, your favorite people suddenly become vulnerable, weak, frail humans, often with many faults. And you're like, well, I guess that's a destiny and a characteristic we all share. So I started looking very much closer to home as far as my heroes, and not looking outside, but for instance, seeing my grandfather as a hero. Why? Not because he got medals or he was famous or anybody knew him outside of the city, but because in every area of life for which he was responsible, he delivered.
Yeah.
He didn't have to get a medal from the world, but he showed up, he took care of the fam, he took care of his profession, you know. And I think in a world where people are just chasing after millions of followers on YouTube because another YouTuber is doing it, I think we're getting lost because of that. It's kind of time to go back to basics. Look around your immediate surroundings, the immediate people who are likely to be at your funeral, and not some people who are completely disconnected from you, who you're modeling your life on, and just say, hey, what is this day? What is this reality? What do these people around me require?
Yep.
Because sometimes your destiny is as simple as just showing up for the people who are right next to you with the talents that you've been given, and doing simple things, and
Yeah.
and not getting crazy with your aspirations.
Well said. So, as a music fan, what was the first concert that you ever saw that blew you away?
Oh boy, the first concert would probably be, but of course, you know, this is like, I think I was 12 years old, and it was a Metallica concert and Justice for All.
Yeah.
And I was a huge heavy metal fan at the time. And I guess, when you start getting into your teenage years, you want it loud, you want it edgy, you want it fast. And at that time, Metallica was delivering all those things. But, I was always sort of looking on the fringe. I wasn't really interested necessarily in whatever was popular. I was interested in whatever was interesting. And so I remember even in high school, like these guys took me under their wing and they were punk rockers. And I was just totally fascinated by the punk rock culture. The Doc Martens, why they're wearing tight jeans, why are they reading poetry? What are they screaming about? And they were screaming about real things. And that was
Yeah.
real fascinating to me because the average person thought, well, it's just three chords and noise. But really, there was an idea behind it. And I was really into that. I know you asked me about concerts, but I haven't actually frequented a lot of concerts, to be honest with you, in my life. Most of my fascination with music, knowledge of music, came from just being at home, listening to records. And my music education came squarely for that because I have zero education as far as music is concerned. I've never went to school for it. I have no idea what scale we're in. I have no idea what mode we're in. I don't even know what chords people are playing. I just know, like, hey, if we put these chords together, do they cause goosebumps? If
Yep.
they're supposed to cause goosebumps, do they cause tears? If they're supposed to cause tears, that's all I know. And even if you look at the jazz musicians around the turn of the century, they weren't sophisticated.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
they couldn't even read, some of these guys,
Right.
but they had what's most important, which is the feel, right? They knew how to sit down and like do something that will move someone on the other side of the speaker once we had speakers. So, Joe, I'm not even sure if I'm answering any of your questions,
You
but
are, dude. Yeah,
you can
this is
always
great.
edit it in post.
No, I love it. I love it. You're getting into it. And you know what? Of all the things that I've had to learn in this lifetime, I do visual arts, I write, I'm an IT guy by
I
day.
saw
There's
that.
all these things that I do, but I don't want to understand music the way that you were talking about. I want to feel it. Like, I don't want to
Yeah.
crack any code. I don't want to know chords. I mean, I have a basic understanding. Every good boy deserves fudge, those things, but I'm not
Right.
really interested in taking it to a scientific place of doing it because it's just one of those mysteries. I want it to be a mystery in this lifetime. I want to love it for what it is
Yeah.
and go. So
Yeah, I mean that's a fair approach. And I'm not against musical education or anything. And one of my musician friends, who's a very talented guy, Ruben Samama, I once asked him. I said, "Hey, what is it like having a really good music education like you have?" Because he's a jazz musician, upright bass, toured with some trios. But now he's doing other things, and he wanted to get beyond upright bass and jazz. And he said, "Look, man, music education, it's not going to save you, uh, but it can definitely be helpful if you know how not to let it ruin you." So I know, thanks to my music education, where we are at any given time when we're making music. I immediately know where we are located and which paths can go where.
yeah,
Whereas you, which is true, I don't know where we are, and I have to actually walk any number of paths to hear if this is a good path or not.
yeah,
Otherwise, I don't know. Whereas he already knows what each path looks like, what each option looks like. So, education, I think it's always good, but in my personal experience, I was commissioned to create music for big brands and their commercials. You're not going to make use of prestigious musical education in the kind of music that you hear in advertising.
yeah.
Um, and it's not because it's like crappy.
Right.
No, a lot of times it's very, very good,
Yeah,
especially if you're talking about brands who are culturally relevant, who need to appeal to the kids in the street, the fashion brands, whatever, whatever. I just mean it's three chords.
yeah,
Like it's never
yeah.
gonna get into, John Cage or something like that, or Sun Ra, it's not going to be esoteric.
Yeah.
And so therefore I realized, like a lot of my friends said to me, oh, I don't do music because, I never did musical education. And I'm like, well, look at me. I'm making money making music, but like musical education would hinder me because
Yeah.
I actually would have to ignore most of it in order to just make a catchy tune
Yep. Right.
and not worry about all the other scales and modes and whatever else exists out there that an average person won't resonate with.
Yeah, for sure. So of all of these things that you've done and evolved to in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Man, it's my family, it's my faith. It's not chasing after the world, like I did in my earlier years, but being able to recognize that the chase is not actually leading me to a destination worth getting to. And that at some point in your life, you have to stop, you have to mute the world, you have to tune into your inner transmission, you have to start examining the big questions, because they're going to take some time to study. And so, maybe it's by the grace of a higher power. But the things I'm most proud of are really those things, the
Yeah.
closest things to my heart. So my family, questions of faith, because, I think one thing we know for sure is our time is limited here in time and space. And so, in a way, I see life as almost a preparation for that moment when either things turn infinite or they don't.
Right.
Now, no one can prove what the heck is going to happen when time runs out. But I think it's worth at least looking into so that when that moment comes, you're like, all right, I bet on this side.
Yep.
I bet that, things go on and they go on for infinity and I'm ready for it. Because if you haven't done it, it's too late. So it's this Pascal wager kind of thing. And so, yeah, my family, my faith, and then helping others with the talents that I have. Those are things that bring me most fulfillment. I tried chasing money. It's kind of cool to have money in the bank. I'm not going to say it's not, but it's not the thing that's necessarily getting you up in the morning.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, I've tried that. I've tried that, and it just doesn't work. So I think the ultimate combination is having those three things figured out. Believe in something bigger than yourself. Have a few folks who are going to be at your funeral and even at your bedside. That would be nice.
Yeah.
And then produce some fruit in your life that are based on your unique talents that serve others in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
What else could you ask for?
That's it. I dig it. So everyone out there has a perception of you, all these pockets of people, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Um, I think I am a human being, um, who did not create himself. Therefore, I will always look at myself as a creature that is somehow able to discern certain things. So there is some kind of intelligence, awareness, capacity to feel wonder, which I believe separates me from my dog. Because as wonderful as my dog is, he doesn't seem to marvel at the fact of our existence. Um, and so I have to appreciate that I was born in this form, that I didn't create myself, and therefore that, there's probably some kind of a intelligence that we'd be wise to tap into in order to live our wisest life. Because if we just go according to our own perception of who we are and nothing more than that, you run the risk of just kind of borrowing some kind of a pattern that is defined by the world. Maybe I'm getting too deep here, Joe. I don't
No,
know.
I love this.
Okay,
This
I'm
is this is
glad.
my
I'm
kind of
glad.
soup.
But like, okay, good. So I just think like the vast fulfillment, the vast Like everything we are made for lies outside of our perception of ourselves. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You know, and in fact, if you want to be happy, it's probably best that you stop asking about yourself. Self-awareness is good, but the true fulfillment, the true joy, the true peace is actually outside of yourself.
Yeah.
You have to tap into the things that are beyond you in order um, to really receive, because otherwise we run the risk of either chasing our own tail because we're always thinking about ourselves. And anyone who's tried that, I've tried it, you just get tired of talking to yourself on and on and on and asking yourself, what's going to make me happy? What's going to make me happy? You know? Um, so, so yeah, so that's my quest, man. Human being, not created by myself. Therefore, there's some kind of intelligence that created me. I want to tap into that. And I want to ask, you know, if your microwave breaks down, you don't ask it like, okay, heal yourself. No, you go, okay, who made this thing? And do I have a manual for it?
Yeah.
You're going to read the maker's manual, right? If you want to know how to fix the thing. So that's kind of how I'm looking at life, man. And I'm, you know, again, at the risk of maybe offending some people who are like, I have no idea what this guy is going on about. Um, I want some simple answers, and
Yeah.
he's not delivering them.
No, 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 no.
It's not always so simple, right?
Yeah, it's not always so simple. So if anyone wants to continue this further, delve into your world, anything that you got going on, where's the best place to go? Reach out. How do they do that?
Yeah, it depends what you're looking for, you know. If you're looking for some of these thoughts, practical philosophies on your everyday life and how to tap into your unique vision and then bring it into everyday life, then I would say visit me at TommyZee.com. This is my latest chapter. This is where I'm doing the mentorship. This is where I'm asking the big questions, thinking about life, trying to help others to sort out, you know, a real sense of fulfillment and joy in their life. If you're a musician and you want to learn how to make a living with music, I can teach you the way that we've been doing it, which is being commissioned on behalf of big brands and lending our talent that way. You can go to makingmusicforbrands.com if you're interested in that. And that's about all I got
Okay.
at this point. You can follow my YouTube channels. You know, you can find me under Tommy Zee, or you can find me at Zee&Co, which is our music academy / music production company on YouTube. And those are pretty much all the ways.
I love this, Tommy. You're great, man. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your story. I love the insights.
Dude, no worries.
The deeper, the better, man. So keep doing the good work, my man.
I appreciate you having me, man.
Absolutely. Cool, man. Have a great